started. And Nico, if others enter the queue, then we can just let them in as we go. But I wanted to start by saying good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining in today's Good Food Festival talk on traditional food is prized food. Just a couple of housekeeping measures. If you're not speaking, go ahead and mute your mic just to cut back on any background noise. And then we're going to have a sort of question and answer at the end. So if you have questions, go ahead and note them down or type them in the chat, and then we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes at the end where we can open it up and have more of a discussion with our panelists today. So let me introduce the topic and our panel. Today we're going to be hearing from chef and culinary visionaries on the Zim food scene about local ingredients, traditional foods, and why these guys are so excited about them. So joining us is Chef Takura. He's a sommelier and fine dining aficionado, and Itayi Duve is the mastermind foodie behind Secret Dinners Zimbabwe, which is a pop-up fine dining experience that's all about inspiring creativity with local food. Chefs, it's so great to have you both with us. I'm going to kick it off with just asking you, how did you each get into food? What was it a specific moment, an unforgettable dish that you had? What started you each on your path? Maybe Takura, we can start with you. You need to unmute yourself, chef. There you go. Oh, camera on, mic on. You're still muted.
I've
there you
just
go.
tried to, okay. My side is not working great at the moment, so I can't really see everyone. But just on how I got into food, I've always been interested in food, even as a kid. I guess it kind of started from me packing my own lunchboxes and trying to keep things interesting. And then obviously when I went to university, I was working in hospitality, so the love of food kind of strengthened from that point going forward.
Yeah. And Itayi, what about you?
Literally my mother. My mother is the pillar who got me started into my own food journey. But it was more than I needed to assist her with a lot of chores around the house. So she was like, who can I rely on except my grown child, because everybody was a baby then. And so we used to have a lot of aunts and uncles growing around us who were teenagers back then. And we had a lot of people popping in and out of the house. So sometimes my mother would be overwhelmed, but I don't think she consciously thought that she was training me. I think she just felt that she needed assistance. And one day she was like, yeah, you got it. You can do this, you can run. So when visitors would come, she wouldn't have to come to the kitchen anymore. She didn't have to tell me what to do. Instinctively, I knew what to do. So my mother's literally the first person who got me to realize I had a food story, I had a food journey to embark on from a very young age. I think I was 6 or 7 when I really got enmeshed in it. And some people would say to me like, isn't that child labor? And I'm like, no, it's child labor if you don't love it. I loved every second of it. I loved every second. And sometimes she'd leave me in the kitchen there and I would not know what to do. But I found my way, and therefore I'm ever grateful to her because she's such a flavor queen, you know. But that's how my food journey started. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's really sweet. Yeah, and I know in particular for you, Itayi, that and to a certain extent, Takura, chef, you're starting, you're exploring some of this as well. But you both seem, especially Itayi, you seem particularly inspired by those ingredients that have so long been part of what Zimbabweans have traditionally eaten. Why is that? And why is this focus on local traditional food important to you, to your cooking, and to your experience as a chef? And Itayi, like, sorry, Chef Takura, like, how do you see it sort of evolving for yourself as your own sort of area of interest or familiarity? Maybe we can start with it. Yeah, go ahead. We can start with Itayi. Let's start with Itayi. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I think for me, it's really just reconnecting with history, reconnecting with the heritage. Just for me, I think my interest was piqued when I started working with chefs who were really interested in retelling the Zimbabwean narrative of food, and just discovering that there are all these layers that were associated with the foods that we were consuming very simply or taking really for granted. There were medicinal layers to it. There were all these soothing layers to it. There was culture around specific food, which was no longer part of the narrative of today. So that's where my interest was piqued. And I was like, well, look, if I could create a platform where we could include more and more of these ingredients and give them a historical context and keep telling the story that these are important, not only from a historical or heritage perspective, but from just pure ingredients, these beautiful ingredients we have that are growing everywhere that everybody's forgotten, just what they hold, what they can hold for us, how they can literally just change how we are reacting to food these days, how they can also be medicinal. It's where it started. So for my journey in terms of delving back to what are called traditional food is very nuanced, if I can put it that way. It has to do with food itself, but it's got to do with history itself, but it's got to do with what are the properties we've forgotten about these foods, which will help us cook them in a way that enhances their powerful properties. And that's my own personal viewpoint of why I'm on this journey. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just this sort of innate value of those ingredients and those foods, and sort of, making it clear that that's true. The value is there. Chef Takura, you've had a slightly different different journey, and we've talked about it a little bit amongst our you and I. But I'd like to hear from you as well, sort of how things may or have evolved for you in terms of your familiarity with these ingredients and how you feel about them.
Yeah, I think I was kind of led down this path by customers. Customers at the hotel who would want more traditional, slightly more healthy food, and then me trying to backpedal and figure out, okay, how do I treat local grains? How do I treat different types of offal that people like enjoying? How do I treat different vegetables that I might not have come across, and still present a high-end dining experience, as well as giving customers that local nostalgia that they love. So for me, it's kind of been an interesting journey because I'm still learning. There's still so much that that I need to learn about traditional ingredients and traditional recipes. But there definitely is a lot of value in there. There definitely are a lot of flavors that translate universally, and there definitely are a lot of health benefits as well to eating the way we always used to eat before refined and processed foods came part of our diet.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think, I mean, that brings something interesting up. I mean, it's also really incredible how food influences and shapes us, right? So, everything from our health, as you were just mentioning, but also just culture and society, right? I'd be really interesting to hear from each of you what you see are the new trends for these ancient ingredients, as you as chefs and curators of food experiences are seeing coming up on the food scene. What do you see as trends, and what do you think comes next? Itayi, we can start with you.
Well, I'll start to where I am now, and I really want to reiterate what Takura is saying about the process of learning and how it never stops. So during this COVID lockdown, I was really enchanted by the series on Netflix called Chef's Table. And what is so interesting is how all of a sudden, well, I can't say all of a sudden, but it must have been going on for so long, how chefs are taking their local ingredients and going deep diving into local knowledge about food and bringing it back to the table. So when I was watching these series, I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy. People are actually doing it. But also just getting to realize that there's been a cross-pollination of food cultures that's been happening for centuries. When I was watching the episode on Mashama Bailey, I think her name is, and another American chef from the South, I think he's from Charleston, and they're talking about how the American South, the food influences are very much influenced by West African indigenous food like okra and all of those things. And I was like, wow, what a great way of actually the narrative being developed, where we are now celebrating each other and realizing that food is bringing us together. Sorry, I'm at a farm, so if you if you're hearing nature calling there,
I love it. Awesome.
Yeah. So for me, I think the trend is rather viewing food as something that distinctly identifies nations and cultures, and food is beginning to, chefs are doing a great job at actually making food unite us, making food one of the centers that actually speaks that, you know, there is diversity and unity, and food brings people together, and I see that not as a trend, but as a necessity, that chefs are actually doing it more and more to highlight how South American food can be found in parts of West Africa, how they're redefining history, rewriting history, that the history that we have in our textbooks is very much according to one specific mindset. But food is there as evidence to teach us that we have been sharing, we have been cross-pollinating, we have been, you know, merging as cultures for millennia. And isn't there something to learn there? Isn't there something that is so profound that food can teach us? And I think it's not a trend, it's more of a necessary movement that's coming back. And very talented, very specific chefs are leading that movement. I was just saddened to see that the Netflix series has not highlighted any African chefs. And I think there's a lot of rich culture that needs to be told to the world about the origin of mankind. But yeah, those have been my lessons, really, from Netflix, nothing else, no reading.
No, it's really insightful to compare the two, because there are movements happening that, because they don't get voice or attention, people assume that they're not happening. And I think that that's a failing in storytelling and in sharing. Chef Takura, do you have some thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, like I'm not sure about trends per se, but I think I'm seeing a lot of restaurants that use like your traditional cooking techniques, like putting things on fire, or really long, slow cooking processes that are really, really used a lot in our traditional settings. And also, I think there's almost a simplicity, or not trying to over flavor things and trying to allow the natural flavors of things to come through. So for example, if I'm going to do a Roadrunner dish, I'm really not going to town on the spices, but because Roadrunner is organic and has a very strong flavor versus your farm-fed chicken, for example, you don't actually have to do that much to it. Same thing when we use smaller animals that seem to have been used a lot more in the past. On the agricultural side, I'm really enjoying things like using yams or madumbe, magogoya, we call them, as a starch, and seeing how I can play with that to kind of almost mimic something that a Western person or someone with a Western palate might recognize and be like, oh, okay, they're using this yam as a dish. And then your small grains of sadza, there's also very ancient grains that work almost like a couscous that I've been introduced to. So I'm very, very keen to learn more and more, because it can be a trend, or so we can try and get out in front of it and try and be as cutting edge as we can, because it can get a bit boring doing quarter chicken and chips. So we've got to try a few different things.
No, agreed. I want to circle back to this idea of sort of shared ingredients across cultures, across continents, and how, you know, that, as Itayi was saying, it sort of traces movements and shared experiences amongst people and really draws us together. One question I have for both of you is, there's such a variety of ways to prepare these ingredients in other cuisines, right? You know, think of Indian cuisines or dishes, and in Latin America, et cetera, where we have, and even West Africa, really, as compared to Zimbabwe, there's lots of different ways that they use some of these very same ingredients that are traditional to the Zim menu. And do you feel like people maybe in some of other food cultures are more excited about those ingredients than they are in Zim? And do you have any thoughts about why that might be? Because there's the trend and there's the desire by chefs to really value and elevate these ingredients. But we also have to think about the consumers, right? And their interest level. How do you see those things playing off each other? Itayi, we can start with you. Yeah.
That's a loaded question. I think, look, I think we can never really push consumers to do what is outside of their comfort zone. What we can do is be an early adopter and be visionary and passionate about it in sharing the story. So I think in the Zimbabwean context, there's the everyday struggles of every person, which is cost and efficiency. And yet curiosity is what moves every society, because change is constant. So if we have enough of a movement of food pioneers who are showing that our ingredients are versatile, they're simple, they're versatile, we can retain their flavor in a very cost-efficient way, but we can also apply our creativity daily and not have to break the bank. I think that's enough to pique people's curiosity, because we've got to contextualize what people are going through, where their emotions are focused on right now. And, you know, use that as a way to communicate and say, yes, hey, well, we can have bad days, but let's not have bad food. You know, let's also just celebrate the fact that we are a thriving culture. We are a culture that adapts. We are a culture that is moving, even though we seem stuck. And the best place to do so is our food. But if there's enough of a movement of people who are showing people that within your 5 ZW ballot, you can do something phenomenal. I think there's enough armor there to get people on board. So for me, I feel that 1 or 2 people sharing the narrative and showing Zimbabweans that we've got what we have is enough. isn't enough. We should be channeling and supporting those that are in front, those that are putting daily, like Chef Takura, like the Ankara chef, who are already at the forefront of making people passionate about the ingredients they have in their background. Where's the support? You know what I mean? I think if we're pushing this narrative, we need all to get into it, that how do we make beans interesting 5 days a week? Because it's someone's reality, you know. How do we make a roadrunner last for 5 days? Because it is someone's reality. It is our reality. And making it last and making it flavorsome and making it interesting and creative is really not watching another chef on TV, but it's applying our old inherent embedded creativity that's within us by asking your grandmother, how did you do it? And sharing that story on a timeline that, you know, my grandmother said you could just dig a pit somewhere and put your hari in there and cover it with sand today and go and do some of your chores, and it's there, it's retaining its flavor for 18 hours. And people, and the way they used to do it was because everybody's tired when they come back from the fields, right? And it's the same thing. When you come back from hustling in Harare City, you're tired, you're exhausted. So why not apply that same creativity that's there? And I think really it's the early adopters, it's the Diankara chefs, it's the Chef Takuras who have shown us that we've got enough of nature's closet, nature's ingredients, to make our food interesting and to make our food interesting within a budget. But they need our support. We need to keep on pushing this narrative that, guys, creativity doesn't mean it has to be fun dining every day. No, creativity means just applying our creativity with what we have, what nature has blessed Zimbabwe with. And that's why I think we need to be really looking at it from a simplistic and empathetic point of view with everyday Zimbabwean struggles, and just give people joy that, hey, food is joy. Why don't we celebrate it through food every day? At least that's the one aspect we have that we can celebrate from a very creative and very affordable and very efficient point of view. If some people would dare join the movement of sharing these recipes, sharing these narratives, sharing this heritage every day, simply, I think.
Yeah, that's spot on. Chef Takura, if you would like to hear any thoughts you might want to add to that. And then we have a few minutes left, so we just want to open it up for questions after that. But Chef, please, with your contribution.
Okay, yeah, no, I mostly agree with Itayi there. I mean, I guess from a professional standpoint, I kind of have a luxury where if I'm not doing an a la carte menu, I've got a buffet. So it really doesn't hurt me to put a, say, traditional dish on, because there's plenty of other dishes on the buffet. But what it does do is it really gets a conversation started. So the guest might be like, oh, okay, why is this sudza different to the sudza? Why is this fritter not a potato fritter, but a madumbe fritter? So you can always have different things, especially for us on our buffet menus, where we can play with things and get people to try things. But he's right that we can't revolutionize this thing. Like, we do need to try and help people along a little bit, and yeah, like, just try and influence as much as we can that local food is good food, and that it's better for you. I think the health benefits is the strongest selling point for our local and traditional cuisines.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what part of the inside part of my loaded question was trying to get at. I think some of the messaging around local foods has been either intentionally, unintentionally, I hope, sort of negative, you know, that these foods are poor people's foods. These are the foods you used to grow, but it's just what you eat if your maize crop fails, or you know. So I do think that has an impact on consumers' perceptions of their own food, and that's something that is worth considering, even as we share our passions and try to inspire and excite a new generation of eaters. I think people, chefs and others in the food industry are struggling against some of those perceptions that have been laid out almost subliminally for a long time. That's just my point of view. I'd like to open it up. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to see if others have contributions, comments, questions. If you'd like to, just unmute your mic and jump right in.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for this very interesting perspective on food and the delicacies of the traditional meals and the recipes. I just wanted to find out, how committed are you to representing the diversity of cuisines which exist at the national level? And also, I'm very glad that you are making a change and trying to influence the systems. Because if you look at the traditional crops themselves at a national level, they don't get enough support. Even the farmers who are still growing those traditional, the small grains which Chef Takura spoke about. You spoke about the other traditional vegetables, Itayi. But if you notice, we are losing more and more of those land races because farmers who specialize in growing those crops are not getting enough support. And that then impacts on the volumes which get to you, the processing industry, and also to the chefs like yourselves. So is there, if you were maybe asked to make a difference and try to bring more awareness, how would you propose for it to work? Because we really need to find ways you are doing the best, but outside your comfort zones in the kitchen and the cooking. How do you propose, since the interest you have in the food and preparing it also shows that you have an idea of the value chains and the constraints, which also even impact on your ability to bring out even more dishes out there. So how do you think we can address some of those issues? Thank you.
Yeah, like there's a little bit to unpack there, but I think for me, it really right now is it's an awareness game, and I think yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult because we've had 100 odd years of eating very westernized diets, and at the moment, a lot of traditional foods, small grains, etc., do tend to be quite pricey, just because you can't mass produce, you can't. Yeah, they're not mass marketed, and also from a farming point of view, it's been made easier just to monoculture the thing and just do 100% maize and get paid that way. I do think on a national level, we probably do need to start at the farmer. It does need to be worth the farmer's while to start producing local and indigenous foods on a larger scale, especially in years where drought and water availability are a problem. Our traditional foods tend to do better with less water than other types of food. But yeah, I think it is a bit of an uphill battle, but we kind of have to start somewhere. I think without a national level of farming and awareness, it'll probably continue to be guys working in their own small spheres trying to influence a larger sphere.
Thanks for that. Itayi, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just to add that I think the conversation has happened for me and has started. I think for me, it's been the commitment to action, which is what I think the panelist is alluding to. And I think all of us need to really commit to a role in the value chain, which is what do creative chefs bring to the table? What do researchers bring to the table? what the food scientists bring to the table. And then if we can get scientists, science, history, traditionalists, food epicurists, food creators, all of that, if we can get a more holistic voice and movement to lobby and move and mobilize people, I think that will create more impact, because then that does not have a trickle effect. It has a huge impact on the value chain. How do we then incentivize farmers to keep on growing small grains? And how do we incentivize marketers? How do we incentivize producers? How do we create parallel systems? Because sometimes you need to actually create a whole new system. And in terms of commitment, I'm very committed to I'm very committed to making sure that this movement sees its feet and people realize what a gift we have, and the sort of food basket we have, and remember it. But I don't think we can leave it to chefs alone. I think we need to get a number of people involved to come together and say, how do we commit to a role that impacts the value chain? And if so, how do we ensure that a voice like Chef Takura and Chef Tafato, the Ankara chef, when they speak about these foods, when they create these dishes, it's actually contextualized and people actually understand? Because right now, when you see those dishes, people will be like, oh, okay, look, he's creating something, and that's interesting. We want to move beyond interesting. We want to move beyond a person just being creative. Oh, he's creative. No, it's history. He's making history. He's ensuring that the people remembering these things in a creative context of now, generations that are coming forward can remember that, oh, okay, there was a chef who did this, but it has to go beyond that chef. We all need to come together, and we all need to come as one, scientists, historians, traditionalists, and lobby that, guys, we cannot forget this amazing food that's already selling incredibly well. Oh, sorry, have I gone off board?
No, we're loving you. Like, me and Bertha are like, woohoo!
I just wanted to say something. I'm looking at the time. I wanted to ask, in terms of if a customer is asking you, let's say, about the nutritional content of some of the food that you are providing. For example, if someone says, what is the nutritional value of, say, madumbe, if you are serving fritters for madumbe, or if you are serving finger millet porridge, are you able to tell them the nutritional benefits, since you are saying this is what is really selling traditional foods? Do you have information like in terms of nutrients to be able to give to the customers?
With stuff like your porridge, madumbe fritters, we probably don't, because we probably have to go through a couple of processes which might change. But the differences between fiber content in finger millet porridge, for example, higher fibers good for your digestive system. I think it's also high in folate and some B vitamins as well. But as I said, that's from a little bit of internet research that I've done. So I personally would love it if there was a national initiative where Ministry of Health, for example, said, okay, for your health, it's good to eat X, Y, and Z for these reasons. Because I actually haven't spoken to an authority on the nutritional side, other than knowing that small grains, better glycemic index, so you can you burn them slightly faster, and also higher fiber and B vitamins are what we've been told. And then everything else we kind of have to learn as we go. I know things like your green veg can help with absorption of calcium and other vitamins as well. But
thanks so much, Chef. I'm so sorry, we have less than a minute to go. I hate to cut you off, but I just wanted to have a chance to thank both of you for joining us today. It was a really, really interesting to hear your thoughts. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and join us on the next talks in the series. If you want to join another one, just send me an email, and we'll see you soon. Thanks everyone. Sorry to cut you off, Chef. All
No
right.
problem.
Take care. See you.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Hi and bye.